So it's maybe a carrot on a string, but maybe make sure it's a tasty carrot. Who's the person who comes to mind when you think of someone you never want to disappoint? The person who would leave you disappointed in yourself if you knew that you had disappointed them. Let's talk about friendships for a moment. Have you ever had someone that you got along well with just kind of flake out on a regular basis? Maybe they'd make plans with you and then they'd never show up on time, or worse, they wouldn't show up at all, like they forgot you even made plans. If you're like me, you don't let that happen too many times in a row before you stop trying to make plans with them. And for me, that's because I like to see when people value my presence and value my time. So with that in mind, what about when we're talking about your relationship with yourself? If you intend to do things and you have no follow-through, what does that do to your relationship with yourself? It teaches you that you're not reliable, which maybe might feel a little weird to talk about this in this way, to think of you having a relationship with yourself. Isn't it just one person? But isn't it true that you lose confidence in your own ability to be trustworthy, and after a while, you lose confidence in your own ability to do much at all? If instead of following through on something you've been telling yourself you want to do, or maybe something that you even put on the calendar to say, we're going to do this, and we're going to do this for this length of time at this specified time. If you are showing yourself that your own word doesn't matter, then you're not going to get the results that you want. There are a few major things that happen when you start keeping your word to yourself. First, you build self-confidence, because you know that you have the capacity for the follow-through. You start to believe that you are a person who can do the thing. Not only can you start to trust yourself, you can also start to respect yourself, because you're the first example that you have to follow on whether you are a person who is even worth taking seriously or not. You don't have to believe that, you don't have to agree with it, but test it out, because you might find that this is a piece that's been missing. If you are waiting for the world to show you that you are worthwhile, and you're not even showing yourself that you're worthwhile, just consider it. You're with yourself 24 hours a day. I think your opinion might be more important and carry more sway than you might realize. Keeping your word to yourself is going to strengthen your discipline and your resilience. I'm thinking of a friend who told me that she spent some time in a meditation retreat, and while they were meditating as a group, her back was hurting, and she powered through it, and after that experience, she realized she doesn't have to quit when things become uncomfortable. She realized and was able to internalize that she had a capacity she didn't realize she had to outlast the discomfort, to not have pain be the thing that made her choice for her ultimately. Which of course means keeping your word to yourself also builds your endurance. You don't know what you can handle until you give yourself a chance to be the person who can handle such things. Now, I'm not wishing suffering upon you, but there's plenty of things that you are capable of that you may not have given yourself a chance to believe you were capable of. And the sad thing that's true for many of us is we often didn't necessarily have a person's footsteps to follow, often didn't have mentorship to meet us where we were, often didn't have a cheerleader, often didn't have someone to look into our eyes and say, you have what it takes, you can do this. So as you start to build your endurance, You can start to have the gumption that it takes to stick with your New Year's resolutions, to stick with your long-range goals. You have to start somewhere. And as you start with the small things, you'll find yourself gaining muscle in that sense, and being able to handle bigger things. Keeping your word to yourself also results in your own inner world being more balanced. Your emotional well-being is going to shift as a result of this and growing in this way. You start to build not only that capacity that we already talked about, but capacity to, literally a capacity to believe. Have you ever found it hard to just believe? And I mean believe in anything. Believe that you would succeed if you tried. No matter what the aim is, just fill in the blank, I believe I could do this. I've struggled with that. I'm partly making these videos because I believe other people have experienced the same things. And then, of course, keeping your word to yourself starts to signal to the outside world what kind of person you are and how you ought to be treated. We kind of have to show people how to interact with us. It's the way that you carry yourself that signals a lot to people, which does a lot to make a way or close off a way for them to respond to you. So keeping your word to yourself makes you more trustworthy in your own eyes, but also, shall we say, in a real way, creates a bridge so that other people can start to invest their trust in you, see you as somebody that they want to know, that they want to interact with, and they may even want to lean on. What I don't want to have come across in a video of this topic is for this to be a shame-based thing, because shame is one of those voices that says, you can't do it, you're no good, look at what happened last time. Shame is keeping a scorecard of everything that's ever gone wrong. So part of turning the tide with this is to be kind to yourself and practice some self-compassion, because that is really going to pay big dividends. It's kind of the difference between planting in fertile soil rather than planting in just old, destroyed soil or dust. And as we are continuing to talk some about these beginning of the year goals, the things that we don't want to lose traction with, a couple other things to keep in mind are keep the goals small at first. Give yourself a little win. Give yourself enough so that it's not just the pressure to maintain a perfect record. It's a bit of a boost. You say, if I do this little hill, then I could do this bigger hill. Start small, but also prioritize things that are meaningful on a personal level. The goals that are not just my life would be better if, but this is going to help me do this thing that matters to me. No, not just, I'm going to eat better this year because I should, but, because that's not a very concrete, that doesn't really go on the vision board, right, for your life. That's something more concrete would be, I'm looking forward to fill in the blank, and that's going to motivate me to do this goal that I've already specified. So find something this week. Find something to make your existing goal a little more concrete, a little more specific, something that gets your buy-in. So it's not just a good idea, it's something that you can bait yourself with. So it's maybe a carrot on a string, but maybe make sure it's a tasty carrot. And the last thing I want to say for this one is give yourself credit. That's part of how we track progress. Is, give yourself credit for the things that you did well, the things you followed through on. Keep track of that. Talk to a friend about what you're working on. Write it in your journal. Keep track of what you're actually doing, the steps you're taking, and why the steps matter. Giving yourself credit doesn't have to be anything inauthentic. It doesn't have to be anything so over the top that it feels disingenuous to talk about yourself that way. Although, pro tip, you are going to have to get used to talking good about yourself, to speaking well of yourself. And that might feel really unnatural for a while if you haven't had good positive self-talk. Just remember that what you put in your soil is going to be what makes the thing grow or die. And that's what we're talking about when we're talking about positive self-talk. It's not just fostering a fantasy, it's growing the thing that you're trying to grow. And you can't become a successful bodybuilder by just drinking poison. With that, I will ask you to like, subscribe, and hit your notification bell if you would like to hear more positive motivators, things to help keep you tethered to your goals and keep a positive trajectory for this year. If you're feeling brave about this, feel free to leave a comment down below about an area that's really been a snag that you hit when it comes to keeping your word to yourself. What makes it hard for you? And then I'd also, on the positive side, be interested to hear from you as far as what's been working. Maybe you're a few steps further on your journey than some people are, and maybe you've already seen what works and what doesn't. I would love to hear things in a more nuanced perspective, the things that might sound like a positive step that end up adding more pressure than you thought they would, and then the things that end up truly just bringing more positive behavior, positive reinforcement. Thanks for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon.